Well, welcome to the Get Fit with Jodelle podcast. I'm Jodelle as usual, and it's that time of year where people have set their New Year's goals and losing the winter weight or getting fit. And yet sometimes around mid-February, there's some goals that start to slide backwards a little bit, or life gets in the way, or plateaus occur. Also, many people and many of my listeners are always looking to improve their thyroid. So, you guys listening out there that are talking about thyroid today, you're going to want to pay attention because I brought on a special guest to talk to us about the benefits of something that it's actually a hormone that's not well known called T2. We've heard about T4, we've heard about T3, but maybe you haven't heard so much about T2. So Jason Arntz is the CEO at I-Prevail Supplements and an IFBB Pro and a four-time Mr. Olympian. And he's joining me today to talk about all things metabolism, fat burning, and thyroid with specific regard to the unsung hero, in my opinion, in the thyroid world, T2. We hear about the benefits of T3. We see how prevalent it is that practitioners prescribe T4. But when it comes to T2, we're going to open your mind up to the vast world of all its benefits and results that await you when you give it a try. And it's kind of hard to find. So Jason is quite the expert on this. So Jason, welcome. I'm glad to talk to somebody who is an expert on T2. Let's open it up first to what it is and what it does in the body.
Well, Jodelle, first, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you and just to bring light and recognition to the T2. I first found out about the T2 hormones through my own research, through competitive bodybuilding, and always trying to find a way to stimulate your thyroid, enhance your thyroid for better metabolism, better burning of fat. What people don't realize also is thyroid, your thyroid hormone can be an anabolic hormone. And when your other anabolic hormones are activated, they work wonderfully together, all in conjunction together. You create a good synergistic effect of just a well-balanced body, when your hormone levels are in check. But T2 was used more for research when I found out about it. They were prescribing T3 and T4 at the times, and they were getting success with it. I'm not a big advocate of T4. I think it's overprescribed, and the problem with T4 is once you're on it, you're probably going to be on it for life. When they could give you increments of T3 type of therapy to help boost and stimulate your thyroid. T4 should only be given to people who have no thyroid, so who have issues with their thyroids, had to have them removed. But T4 to use, as a daily base, I just think it's overrated. And like I said, again, you're going to be on it forever. So I use T3 in my competitive career and small increments, 25 micrograms daily, for no longer than three to four, maybe sometimes 5 weeks, but you would always taper off to keep your natural levels from suppressing too much. But then I looked into research and I started seeing that with T3 and T4, they were having issues prescribing it to people who had heart conditions or people who were morbidly obese because it does increase your heart rate. So they started looking into the T2 therapy. Now, T2 are the metabolites. When your body when your body releases T3, when your thyroid secretes T3, it gets broken down to two different T2 metabolites, the 3,3 diode-l-thyronine and the 3,5 diode-l-thyronine. And these two metabolites are what actually keeps everything active in your body. So they started experimenting just with the metabolites of the T3, which are the T2s. And they noticed that with the T2s, there was no increase in heart rate. So they could give people doses of T2 and saw beneficial effects to help target obesity and people for weight loss or people with suppressed thyroid conditions without having to worry about increasing their heart rate, or people with heart conditions, or people who are sensitive to regular T3 and T4 therapy. So they are two natural hormones, and because they're metabolites, they could be used in accordance to a good, well-balanced diet to help increase your natural thyroid production.
Yeah, that's what I had seen too, is that T3, people can take it and they can get good results, but they, get the jitters or that heart racy feeling. Or I mean, I've even seen people end up in the ER with taking too much. So, but T2, I've never had that effect. I've never seen that effect. And actually, when I was taking your T2 specifically, I could take it before bed and I slept great. Like it was something I didn't have to, just take in the morning. So, like with you personally, what benefits did you know, and how did you find out about T2 at first too? Like you were just doing research, I guess, and you found it?
Yeah, so through my competitive years, I was always looking to find an edge,
Hmm.
and being a professional competitive bodybuilder, sometimes you have to kind of, dive into some of the darker things,
Yeah.
and at the time you're young, you're invincible, you could handle anything. But I always had a different outlook. I always knew that, hey, I want to have kids one day. I want to have a
Yeah.
healthy life. I want longevity.
Hmm.
Professional bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding, was a limited time. And I knew when that time was up, I wanted to make sure I could carry on, a good, well-balanced life and still be active and not really compromise any type of long-term health issues that I thought I might have. So I always looked into better types of therapies and even using the things that I used properly. And
Hmm.
sometimes the way they're prescribed is not using them properly, especially for people who don't have severe issues.
Hmm.
That's why I think there's a big overprescription of a lot of these medicines nowadays. Um, but looking into it, I'm like, well, what can I do that won't shut down thyroid production? What you don't want to have. I mean, people who have no thyroids, I mean, or lack of a thyroid production, you're on the verge of depression, and most manic depressions actually have low thyroid conditions. So there's a lot of bad health issues you're at risk at from suppressing your natural thyroid condition. So I was always looking at a better, more positive way. So I was just started looking into research of what was done, and it was surprising to me that they never really brought it to market, and I didn't know why. And there was a company and a formulator that I was good friends with at the time. He was as a formulator, he was somebody I looked up to, and I was always into formulations. And we would throw ideas back and forth, and I saw that he was using it. I saw the success he had in this one product, and I saw it on the shelves everywhere, and people loved it. And then the funny thing is with sports supplements, it's a tricky industry because you know people look for immediate gratification,
Hmm.
and nobody wants to hear that you'll see some weight loss in a couple of weeks. Everybody thinks they're going to take this pill, and in 3 days, they're going to transform, into this, they're going to metamorphosis. There's a metamorphosis that's going to occur that's going to take them into their perfect, look that they're looking for. Um, and in sports supplements, if people don't feel something right away, they feel as if it's not working,
Hmm.
and as good as this product was, I noticed after some time that I would go into accounts that carried in like, hey, dude, how does this product do for you? And I said, dude, nobody buys it. It just sits on the shelf. And I would say, what do you mean? I said, this is the best, the only real fat burner you
Wow.
have in the store. And it wasn't my company. I got nothing out of promoting this product, And he said the common reason I get from our customers is they don't feel anything. So when I started I-Prevail, one of the first products I put together was the T2 Rise, and I
Hmm.
started thinking, you have to bring this to market. So I put a little bit of caffeine in it, 100 milligrams of caffeine and 100 milligrams of urea
Hmm.
so they get to feel something. They feel a little increased energy, not enough to get your heart rate up. It's like having a cup of coffee.
Sure.
The urea is more of a focal agonist. It gives you focus. So they would get a good effect from it. And after about a week, they're seeing weight loss.
Hmm.
And then, after 6 months to a year, a bunch of my accounts that did very well with the product, they said, dude, can you come out with a caffeine free version of this? Because I have
Hmm.
people that are caffeine sensitive and they love the T2 and they can't find it anywhere. So luckily, my manufacturers were able to source it and buy a good amount of it. And I came out with the non-stim version, which is the one that I think you take,
Yeah.
that you're able to take before bed.
Hmm.
And then on the other side of that spectrum, you get to people that, they want to be cracked out of their mind and full of energy, and which really is not the most beneficial way, to lose weight. But
Right.
it does, when you are overstimulated, it definitely suppresses your appetite. And that's a big problem with a lot of people with weight loss is as good as the T2 works, if you can't put that fork down, you know, you're not going to see the results that you're hoping for. You'll still see results, but not the ones you're hoping for. So I came out with the extreme version a couple years later, which is a high caffeine count. There's a couple different stimulants in that for people that it'll crush your appetite, so they don't get those cravings all day, and the T2 could work for them, and they get the energy to run around and take the kids to school and do laundry or work, or focus on work for a few hours, and go about their business.
Yeah, and it's so funny because you mentioned how it's not something that a lot of people that know about or are taken. Like you saw it at that store and you said, "Why isn't this flying off your shelves?" Why is it so hard? Like, why hasn't it become more mainstream? Why would you say? Because, like you said, it's even kind of hard to resource T2. Why is that?
Well, I think the pharmaceutical companies didn't launch it because they have success with T3 and T4. And with
Mhm.
T4, you have to buy it forever. With T2, you could actually take in increments. And I hate to get on the conspiracy theories, about big pharma,
Right.
but as much as we need them for certain things, they're not necessarily our friends with a lot of other things, right?
Hmm.
And it's a business, and just like any other business, they're there to make money. So because that wasn't converted into a prescription drug, now it's still labeled as a natural supplement, and
Hmm.
we could use it. But I just thought, because people didn't realize, and it wasn't something that was, you have to really look to find this. It's not something that really hit the market. I'm glad it doesn't, because it's a hard ingredient to find, and it's an expensive ingredient to find. So sourcing it is a problem. Um, but it just wasn't marketed the right way.
Hmm.
And I don't over market it as my company, because I don't want my competitors getting it,
Yeah.
so yeah. So I try to draw as little attention to it as possible. I have my base followers that love it, that buy it on a regular basis, and I'm content.
Uh-oh, I have about 6,000 subscribers, so hopefully we
Great.
don't get let the cat out of the bag or something. But it
All right.
needs to, because people are going out there and they're buying these fat burners that are doing nothing. And this is actually something that's beneficial beyond even fat loss. I mean, T2, like you said, this is the metabolite of T3, and every single cell of our body has a thyroid hormone receptor. And so we are getting benefits from staying younger longer, probably
Yeah,
from
yeah,
this.
longevity. So the thing about it also is you will feel better
Hmm.
from this.
Yes.
You will feel, when you're in balance, when your body's in homeostasis, there's a certain feeling you get, right? You really can't explain, but you just feel good. When
Hmm.
something's lacking in you, you're off. This isn't working, that isn't working. Women could have hair conditions from low thyroid condition. Like I
Sure.
mentioned before, not enough serotonin is being produced, or dopamine levels aren't good. They could go through episodes of depression. So low thyroid conditions definitely hinder on overall well-being, your well-being.
Mhm.
But when you're in balance, you feel good. You feel ready. You can do. And that's what this product does for you.
Yeah, so I mean, you've probably seen quite a few testimonials of people that have taken it. What are some things you hear? Like, have you heard like what I reached out to you for? And I'm like, this stuff actually works. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing that every time I use it, because I'll kind of cycle it whenever I just feel like, man, what am I missing? Like, I like to stay lean. I like to look a certain way. And whenever I start to just put on a little bit, I was like, oh, I haven't taken T2 in a while. So then
Right.
I always go back to it and I always get results. And I've done natural desiccated thyroid. I've played around with T3. I've done all the different things. Nothing ever moves a needle as much as T2 does. So, are there other testimonials you've heard from people that have said similar things, or even with regard to
Everything.
other health issues?
So everything that you're saying, I've heard, and there's reviews, and I get emails and calls, and how, you know, this made a difference and changed the way they feel and changed their life, and they've never taken a fat burner before that they actually see results with.
Hmm.
And that's great. I love hearing that stuff. You know, but again, sometimes people are people, and just like you said, you have to sometimes, oh, now I have to go back on it, and
Hmm.
just like you said, it's that time of the year again, this and that. The New Year's resolution people, they're not what they used to be. It's become later and later. New Year's resolution people have become a little lapse, in that, and they fall off quicker.
Hmm.
So everybody, there's a vast majority of people that want to do things,
Uh-huh.
right? And they have goals to do things.
Hmm.
But there's only a percentage of those people that actually do it. So believe it or not, when taking a pill, you would think would be simple. It turns into, well, I haven't done it yet. And I have a couple people that go to my gym that are competing for shows and they're in their cutting phase and they're doing this and they're doing that. And I'm like, oh, dude, how's it working for you? Oh, I haven't taken it. What are you waiting for? Like, like, what are you waiting? I'm not going to twist your arm. No, oh, don't take it. It's, yeah, okay. Well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And everybody wants to talk about what they're going to do,
Yeah.
you know. But I have my diehards, I have my diehards that do it religiously and they care about, self-care and they cycle this on and off. And every testimony is when they do it, they feel great.
Hmm.
They feel great.
You personally, when you do it, do you cycle? Because I find that I just kind of naturally do that. When I realize that I haven't taken it in a while, I just cycle it back in. But I mean, is it good to take just long term or should we cycle
Well,
it?
you could take it long term. I always recommend to give yourself a break from anything.
Hmm.
And I don't even use it as much as I used to because, I mean, I'm one of those opposites, where I eat a perfect diet. I train 5 days a week. I do cardio 5 days a week.
Same.
Weight loss is at the bottom of the things that I'm lean. I'm lean year round.
Hmm.
So I'll do it like, hey, summer's coming. You know, if I want to add a little bit this and that, but I'll tell you, I do feel better. When I am on it,
Hmm.
when I have an overabundance of metabolites from my thyroid production, when my thyroid is producing more, you definitely get that feeling of well-being.
Yeah. And I mean, 70% of the world's population is struggling with thyroid issues because the majority of people that are coming to me, I haven't seen anybody with like really great thyroid blood work or, a hormonal, like hair mineral testing for the thyroid. I look at that and I'm not seeing anybody that's got a really great thyroid. So there's so much that T2 can do. Because, like you said, when you get a natural desiccated thyroid, or if you're even eating a bovine thyroid or something like that, it's got T4, it's got T3, it's got T2, it's got calcitonin in it, all these things that our thyroid naturally would use. And I think one of those missing components is the T2. I don't think people maybe are getting enough, or maybe if their T3 levels are even adequate in their body, maybe they're not even breaking it down well because you got to have good liver health for that too. So,
Right.
what were you going to say?
So, the desiccated thyroid, the problem with the desiccated thyroid is it's really hard to tell how
Mm-hmm.
much you're getting
Mm-hmm.
of T3 or T4
It's
in
true.
that pill.
It's true.
Just because they take the thyroid, they grind it up, they put it in, they have their process of putting it together and their formulations. You really don't know how much you're getting in each one.
Mm-hmm.
With the 3,3 and the 3,5 diode-l-thyronine, it's a compound. You know what's there. So it's the same thing for extracts. If you ever used any type of extracts before,
Mm-hmm.
for blood flow or recovery or anything like that, there's extracts that we get from the earth, beetroot, beetroot extract,
Right.
which are high in nitrates, which are great for your heart, great for your blood. But depending on where it's sourced, when, you know, some of the nitrate content could be higher, some could be lower, and it's the same thing with the granulated thyroid from they're getting it from bovine, they're getting it from, yeah, so it's just really hard to tell, and again, um if there are amounts of T4 in it, they're going to see immediate effects from it. Then they could have a diminishing return on the back end when they get off of it. The great thing about the T2 is there's no diminishing effects. It's a metabolite. So you don't have to worry about offsetting your natural production. You don't have to worry about, hey, my body's getting T4, from an exogenous source now. I don't need to produce as much. And with that, you get a high and lows of natural production. So I'm not doubting that it works, but I've always seen more benefits from just the T2 metabolites. I shouldn't say this.
Ooh, we're getting the inside scoop here.
Well, this is just how I formulate,
Okay.
and for years there was companies that were using 3.5, just the 3.5. And were they getting results? Yeah, okay. But when you have it with the 3.3, completely different.
Okay.
And you don't need as much 3.5.
Okay.
You do not need as much because it's that synergistic effect. It's like if you have two bicep heads, right?
Right.
And if you're only working one of them, right? You're only going to get so much blood and so much volume to that area.
Yeah.
But if you work both of them, you can do half the workload and get the same results.
Gotcha.
So with 3.5, you really need to take, and to be honest, the studies I saw on the 3.5, they're high doses, like really high doses. And the companies that had the 3.5 in their products, they weren't even dosed properly. But they had other stimulants in it. They had other, yohimbe and whatever in it. So people felt something, but they still weren't getting the same fat burning effects.
Okay.
But with the 3.3, you could do a minimal amount of 3.5 and you get double the rewards.
Well, truth be told, there's like maybe 3 manufacturers that you can actually get T2, you being one of them, online, because I've looked into it. And truth be told, I've tried them, and yours is the one I get results with, not the other one. So I don't know where they're sourcing theirs or what they're putting in it.
I'm not going to tell them. I'm certainly not going to tell them.
Yeah, but anyway, I just know that I stick with the product. When I can tell a difference in something, I stick with it. So that's why I love it. So I want to talk about some of the other in the T2 Rise, the product that you have. You have some other ingredients in there that look really interesting that I don't know much about. Like in the stimulant version, you have grains of paradise, and maybe nobody's really talked about that, but that does something to the body. You can feel that one. That makes me sweaty.
Yeah, that's a sweat component. That's a sweat component. So that's another extract. Oh geez. All right. So forgive me. I've been putting together a couple different formulas, so my brain's a little scattered. But the grains of paradise, it's similar to it comes from a cayenne pepper. It's extracted, I believe, from a cayenne pepper.
Okay.
So you get those really heavy thermogenic effects. And it's supposed to convert brown adipose tissue to white adipose tissue, which can in fact help the fat burning process or make you get rid of some of that stubborn body fat a little easier. And that's something that I put in there, especially in the non-stim version, just so you do feel something, right? It's also in the extreme version, I believe. But people want to feel that. Like with the non-stim version, I was worried if I just used the 3.3 and the 3.5, and I'm not feeling anything. But I also want to keep natural production going. Not that there's any risk of offset, but just so it's in there, the saffron, the kelp. You want high iodine levels for natural thyroid production. And I did put the grains of paradise in there, so they get a little bit of a feel, like a little heat, which could give you a little bit of energy. And now I have the the alpha GPC in it also, which is a focal agonist. It has a nootropic effect. So you'll get a little focus, from the non-stim version now with the alpha GPC, without any type of caffeine or increased heart rate or jitters or anything like that. So it's really geared to not only helping your body burn fat, but giving you good mental focus and clarity also.
Do you feel like the grains of paradise actually raises body temperature? Because I know a lot of people working on their thyroid are looking to increase their body temperature. Have you seen that at all?
Yeah, so there's another ingredient I have in the T2 sweat. There's the GBB and the grains of paradise.
Okay.
That's a non-stim version. You don't need stimulants with that, and it's got the 3,3 and the 3,5 in it.
Mm.
It's got some acetylcarnitine, which is the better form of carnitine for burning body fat. And what else is in there? Something else in there. I'm forgetting offhand, but that is targeted for really increasing your body temperature.
Mm.
So you do it before you do cardio, before you go to the gym, and it'll help you lose, a little bit extra of that water weight.
Oh yeah, be prepared to sweat. So it's called T2 sweat for a reason.
Right.
Yeah, the Naringen, I've always loved that, and maybe educate my listeners because actually listening to another guy that I have on quite frequently, Georgie Dinkoff, he promotes this for anti-estrogen too. But I wondered your thoughts on why you put it in there.
So I use Narogen in my Amped Up, which is a testosterone booster to
Hmm.
suppress any type of estrogen increase that you get from, when you increase testosterone, estrogen wants, excuse me, estrogen wants to stay in balance. So for guys that are taking testosterone boosters, you want to make sure that your natural estrogen production doesn't go up with it.
Hmm.
But aside from having good anti-estrogen properties, it's a really good antioxidant. I mean, there's dozens of beneficial, health benefits you get from Narogen.
Hmm.
Breaks up free radicals, good for your heart, good for blood flow, and it actually gives you a better absorption rate of the other ingredients that you use. So it kind of helps the T2s work more efficiently.
Nice. Yeah, and then you mentioned I think it was the lean GBB. Can you talk about that? Because I'm not familiar with that either.
Yeah, that's the Gabby, that's butyrate, whatever. So that, what that does is that actually targets that's a thermogenic as well.
Okay.
So that actually targets that adipose tissue, the stingy body fat, and converts it over so it's easier to break up during exercise. But the problem with GBB is it's got a little bit of a longer half-life. So it could stay active in you, and if you take a high dose of it, you get those the sweat effects you get could last about an hour or two. And I know guys that use more, big amounts of it, but there's just enough in there that gets you through your workout. But all of those in the sweat version are in there for a reason, and that's to target sweating more. And to be honest, there's really no correlation, into better fat loss and sweating.
Hmm.
If your body's moving, there's people that sweat, there's people that don't. But for some reason, people feel better when they sweat. Like when they go into a sauna, you get that heat therapy, your body gets rid of toxins,
Hmm.
so they feel better, overall. But in terms of fat loss, it's really the 3,3 and the 3,5 that are the catalysts in those products. Everything else is there for a purpose. You want to sweat more, people like it, I'll give you that. You want to be overstimulated, I don't agree with it, but you want it, I'll give you that. You're too caffeine sensitive, you want a non-stim version, I'll give you that. And then you
Yeah.
have the regular T2 Rise, which is the middle of the road one, which is just for people that just want a good feeling and they want that fat loss.
Hmm. And that's why I love the non-stim because I don't have to feel anything. I see the difference. Like I just over time you see the difference and I'm like, okay, this stuff is working. And I think that one of the reasons I can take it before bed when I take it is the L-theanine too. You put L-theanine in there, which is great. Just this
Yeah.
great relaxing feeling
Gives
without
you a good
being,
overall, yeah, right.
yeah.
It was
And
in the
is there
original
some fat
version.
burning potential to that too?
Uh, no.
No, just probably to balance out like the any sort of stimulatory effect.
Well, yeah. So people, that's the problem is with it's a delicate market, So I have it in with the caffeinated version just
Hmm.
to balance that out, so you don't get it's more for so you don't get a crash.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have the caffeine that kicks in, the anhydrous that kicks in 15, 20 minutes. You
Hmm.
have the urea genesis, which kicks in pretty quick. And the theanine just kind of cuts the edge off.
Hmm.
So you don't get a crash from that. And it's in the non-stim version because it could block a little cortisol. It could just enhance your mood. It'll take the edge off, but
Hmm.
you get a good feeling from it. You feel relaxed. But there's people that they'll take the non-stim version with their pre-workout.
Hmm.
And they like it because there's no caffeine and they're already taking a bunch of caffeine from the pre-workout,
Right.
or they want to use the sweat with the pre-workout. That's why I have the non-stim of the sweat version.
Yeah.
Originally, I had a mild stim in it. I had a little Yohimbe, but most people I realized are Yohimbe sensitive.
Yeah.
and that makes you sweat a little too
Oh
much.
my gosh, yeah.
It's a little, I don't like it at all. I don't need it. The regular non-stim version is perfect. But there's some crazy people out there that want to, they want to feel like that all day long.
Yeah, there was a time I did like a 6 month stint of Yohimbe and I muddled through it because I felt so like my mouth is salivating and I'm
Yeah,
sweating and I'm like trying to go through my day. And I'm like, this is not good. Like I shouldn't be doing this, although it
yeah.
works. Like you can see some results from it, but the way you have to feel when you're utilizing it, it's just like, I don't know if it's worth it.
Right. It makes everything a little more difficult.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you mentioned testosterone from one of your products. Let's talk about that. Like, do you have some other products that actually can stimulate? Because that's an issue today. There's a lot of people with low testosterone.
So I'll tell you, I have a few accounts that cater to the market and your demographics actually, and these are the products that do well. That's why when you mentioned it earlier, these are the products that actually do well with that market. I have a product called Amped Up,
Hmm.
and it's a natural test booster. People could use it as a PCT. That's for post-cycle therapy. That's for people
Right.
that are using testosterone and need to come off, and it keeps your natural levels high so you don't get a shutdown, so you don't shut down your natural levels of testosterone. Okay.
Hmm.
What's good about the Amped Up is there's an ingredient in there. It's an epiandrosterone, and it's a natural prohormone, and it increases your testosterone and your DHT levels.
Hmm.
And then I have the Tomcat Ollie, which is another extract. Tomcat Ollie increases your testosterone and your fertility.
Hmm.
So for men, it keeps their sperm count active. So if they were suppressed in any way, and I have a higher dose of the Naringen in there, I have 200 milligrams of it. That's to keep the estrogen and cortisol in balance.
Hmm.
And then I have laxagenin, which is a plant sterol. It
Hmm.
actually increases better protein synthesis, keeps you in a positive nitrogen balance.
Hmm.
Um, it works good, but in terms of people that are looking to boost their natural production of testosterone, they love it. I mean,
Hmm.
and you'll notice it in 4 or 5 days.
Wow.
What's good about it is women are seeing benefits from it.
Mm.
Women that are going through premenopausal symptoms. But for women, all they need to take is one pill every other day.
Okay.
For men, they could take one pill a day, and for women, it actually balances out your estrogen. The epiandrosterone, if you're not producing enough estrogen, it helps your body produce more estrogen. If you're
Hmm.
not producing enough testosterone, it'll help your body produce more testosterone. So it does work well for men and women, but dosing has to be different. So for men,
Hmm.
it's one a day. For women, it's one every other day.
Okay. And even with women taking it, have they noticed like fat loss from that in general, even without like a T2?
So it's not really a fat loss product. It does work very well in conjunction with the T2
Hmm.
because now you're stimulating two anabolic hormones. You're stimulating your thyroid and testosterone or estrogen for women,
Hmm.
which keeps women feminine, keeps their
Yeah.
muscle. It keeps, it keeps everything working properly. Um, so they do work well in conjunction with one another.
Hmm.
The other product that does well with the demographic that you reach out to is the Dream Chaser.
Okay.
It's a nighttime sleep formula. There's like 7 different anti-anxiety components in there. It's been one of my top sellers since I started the company, and it's really like an unsung hero because, um, in my industry, the target I go after, everybody wants to put on muscle. They want to train until their head falls off. They want to pump, and not enough people really focus on recovery.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. Like if you're not recovering properly, it doesn't matter what you do in the gym,
Preach it. That's right.
right? You're not going to get there,
Yeah.
Like I said, I use Kava Kava, which is a nice tonic,
Love that.
which you take it, and if you're on an empty stomach, it just cuts that edge off and puts you in a good mood.
Hmm.
Feeling. I have a heavy dose of GABA, which is also a neurotransmitter, and it actually lowers your brain activity. So it allows your brain to shut down overnight. So people who wake up in the middle of the night and their heads are racing and they can't go back to sleep, this will relax those thoughts and allow you to. It's not going to stop you from waking up if you have a habit of waking up in the middle of the night, but you will be able to go back to sleep. But what it does do is it puts you into a deeper REM. So the recovery you get is so much better than not taking it at all. And I have
Mhm.
valerian in there also, which is like a natural version of Xanax,
Yeah.
uh, for some people, for lack of a better term. And everything is really dosed good. I use magnolia bark, which is a great
Mhm.
extract, which promotes anti-anxiety and restful sleep. 5-HTP, a little bit of melatonin. I'm not a big user of melatonin. There's only 3 milligrams in there, but it
Mhm.
does work well um, with the rest of the components that are in there also.
Well, and even 400 milligrams of magnesium, that's great. Like for
Yeah, I
sleep,
mean
that's
that's
excellent.
great. And I use magnesium citrate also, so it
Uh-huh.
helps digestive issues too.
Right.
So you could wake up in the morning, and if you have to, you're ready to go. You're ready. You're ready to go.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what other, I know earlier on in our conversation, you mentioned pre-workout, and some people are on the fence. Like I myself don't take one. I actually would more like to use the T2 just for my pre-workout, but some people swear by it. So, like, what do you recommend as far as pre-workout?
So I have a non-stim pre-workout. I'm not as
Okay.
young as I used to be, and my training is definitely different than it used to be. I'm not
Mine
trying to
too.
put on any more muscle. Those days are behind me. So I use my Rogue X, which does have caffeine in it, but I use a little less than half a scoop. It has
Mhm.
278 milligrams of caffeine, which is, believe it or not, that's a middle of the road
I know.
pre-workout nowadays. There's stuff
Yeah.
with over 400 milligrams of caffeine in it, plus other stimulants. But what I'm a big advocate for is the nitrous oxide ingredients.
Mm.
So anything that helps promote better blood flow, increases your nitric oxide in your body, that's what's going to aid in delivering these nutrients to your muscles while you're training. So I came out with this Forge Pump product, which there's no stimulants in it whatsoever, but I use 1,000 milligrams of lion's mane, which is another nootropic. I'm really big on nootropics as well.
Mhm.
Lion's mane is good because it kicks in within 25 to 30 minutes. So
Sure.
you get this really good focus and it's a high dose. And we source a really good lion's mane. So it yields a high content. So you feel it, you feel the focus. But there's 6 grams of citrulline, there's 1.5 grams of agmatine sulfate.
Mhm.
My original version had beetroot extract in it, which is high in nitrates. The new version, I still have that, but I'm switching over to arugula extract, which has a higher a higher nitrate content. There's pine bark extract, the mentoflavone. There's 7 different glycerol. There's 7 different ingredients that help blood flow go to your muscles, which help you during your training, which people love to get pumped up. They
Yeah.
love the pump. So it helps in the pump. But when you are over pumped, when you have better blood flow, that's what's going to give you the better recovery, better delivery of all the nutrients that are in your blood are rushing to that area to help the cells that are breaking down from your training. So the benefits you get from taking all the nitrous oxide pump pre-workouts, those are the ones that really work. And somebody like yourself who you're not an advocate for pre-workout, you would feel that. You would like that. And for
Okay.
people who want a little caffeine, they could try the Rogue X, but there's definitely something for everybody. But I'm big on that, especially as we get older, heart health,
Oh yeah.
vascular health, nerve health. This is all stuff that we take advantage of because we don't have issues when we're younger.
I know.
But not everything works the same when you get a little older. So you got to pay attention to the small things.
Yeah, no, that blood flow is so important in general because just circulation, which I feel like it gets a little lax as we get older. And you made me, when you were talking about like the pre-workouts having a lot of caffeine, you made me think of like, did you ever take Speed Stack? Do you remember the drink Speed
I've
Stack?
taken a lot more than
And
that.
No Explode, like that was like in my arsenal. I'm like Speed
Yeah,
Stack and
yeah,
No
yeah.
Explode. Yeah. So this is
I used
much
to work for a
safer.
company. We made Redline. Remember Redline? Those Redline
Oh
drinks?
yeah.
Yeah. Those were. It's like liquid adrenaline.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's no
Get you
wonder
going. They get you
it's no
going.
wonder we like I ended up with thyroid issues over time. So thankfully I found your product. So
Right. Well, thank you. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and let's talk, I anytime I have a pro bodybuilder or an expert in fat loss, you've been doing this for many years. Like I love to pick your brain about, tips that we can offer people when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to exercise. So like share with us some of your like strategies and tips this time of year to keep people going.
So, I mean, I think the hardest thing that, or the thing people struggle with most is just, really staying on a well-balanced diet.
Mhm.
That's key. You
Yeah.
know, when you're on a, and everybody has to find what that balance is, right? My diet might not work for everybody. It might work for a lot of people. It might not work at all for any, but it's perfectly designed, for me, my lifestyle, my output, my workload.
Mhm.
I certainly don't overeat. I still eat 6 meals a day, small meals. I do use protein shakes. But I think carbohydrates, I view carbohydrates as non-essential. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm for the keto diet
Mhm.
and that I'm for the Atkins diet, but I think carbohydrates really need to be utilized properly.
Mhm.
They are a good source of glycogen. Our body needs glucose. Our body needs glycogen for energy storage and for energy output. Um, oh, creatine's a great supplement also, just for ATP energy, mental clarity, nootropic effects. But back on the diet, you know, if people keep their carbohydrates in check, low to moderate amount of carbohydrates. And that might mean for some people, 100 grams of carbohydrates a day, 150 to 200 grams of carbohydrates a day.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
Try to have them just in the morning and through midpoint, and then cut back on your carbohydrates at night. Cut out the carbohydrates at night and just stick to your protein and your vegetables.
Mhm.
And you can have more fats at night, but you don't want to mix carbohydrates and fats in the same meal. That's a big problem I think people do is they'll have avocado with rice and this and that. And the
Yeah.
problem is you're getting two different energy sources. You're getting energy source from fat and you're getting an energy source from carbohydrates.
Mhm.
And your body doesn't utilize two different energy sources at the same time. So one of them is going to get stored and the other one's going to get utilized.
Yeah.
So if you're only using one energy source at a time, that's why I think the sugars, the carbohydrates, I don't mean table sugars. I mean, your body converts glucose or carbohydrates into sugar, then it gets converted into glycogen in your body. That gets stored in the muscle cells. So those you want to have in the morning, and you want your slow digesting carbohydrates, your oatmeal, brown rice, sweet potatoes. These are stuff that are high in fiber. They're definitely more nutrient dense than your white potatoes or your white rices. You want to prevent your body from releasing insulin as much as possible, because insulin pushes not just sugars into cells, it pushes fats into cells also.
Mhm.
So if you're not going to get an insulin release, right? That's when you want to have the fats. That's why I recommend taking the fats. Have your salad or your protein with some avocado or extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil or whatever your fat sources are that you're using, natural peanut butter. Have those fat sources at night, and you got to keep them in moderation also.
Mhm.
Depending on your body weight, your body mass index. Um, and for people who are looking to lose weight, I would recommend even cutting your carbohydrates down a little more. 75 to, you need about 60 to 75 grams of carbohydrates daily just for basic metabolic function,
Mhm.
for your brain to function properly, for your metabolism to properly function, to go to the bathroom. Like you need a base amount of carbohydrates.
Mhm.
So taking your base amount, let your body burn. When you have high sugars in your body, um, whenever you're doing any type of activity, your body wants to burn those sugars first.
Mhm.
And then when your sugar level reaches a certain level, which is usually in the 70s, when your blood sugar is in the low to mid 70 range, that's when you start utilizing stored body fat as an energy source. So if you can keep your carbohydrate and your sugar level in that range, you'll constantly be burning fat all day just from normal activity. And then
Mhm.
if you work out and do your cardio on top of that, you're going to be burning extra fat. So that's really the best way to do it. And then once you lose that weight, now, you don't need to be in a low state of blood sugar all the time. You could actually increase your carbohydrates because there's nothing to burn anymore. Your body fat's at a level you're happy with. Now you just need extra energy for basic daily functions. So your diet's constantly changing based upon if you need to lose weight and based upon your workload. And everybody wants somebody to tell them how to do it. But the reality is you really have to find out for yourself what's right for you.
I love that you mentioned how a low it can almost be like a low carb even at 100 to 150 grams a day. Like I don't think people think like that, but if you
Yeah,
just have small amounts, like you said, at the first part of the day and you're choosing wholesome forms of it,
right,
that's healthy. Like your body is getting just the right amount of glucose without spilling over and storing it. And then, like
right.
you said, taking that fat and saving it to the end of the day. That's a brilliant strategy. I wonder if you're comfortable enough taking us through like your typical day of eating, what that looks like for you, just if people are curious.
Yeah, so I get up around 5:30ish, and I'll prep for the gym. I go to the gym around between 6:30, 6:45. And I have 50 grams of whey ice that I have a shake because it's pre-digested. I have three-quarters of a cup of oatmeal. I blend it all together. I put a tablespoon of honey in there.
Nice.
So I'm fasted overnight, so I know my blood sugar level is low. And my
Hmm.
blood sugar level from being on this diet, it's pretty much low all the time.
Yeah.
So that's my pre-workout meal. I'll blend it up. I'll drink it. I'll take my Forge pump. I'll take a little bit of my stimulants, a quarter of a scoop, and I'm off to the gym. I do my weight training and then I do my cardio after. I come home and I have my post-workout drink, which is again 50 grams of whey isolate. I have three-quarters of a cup of oatmeal again. It's a slow digesting carbohydrate, and I'll put a banana in there just for some simple sugars, just
Hmm.
to help replace, what I diminished from the gym. During my workout, I drink my Rehab, which is an intra-workout formula. It's got branched chain essential amino acids.
Nice.
It's got 25 grams of carb 10, which is another carbohydrate source, but it comes from pea starch. So it's a low molecular body weight and it's low glycemic index, so you don't get an insulin spike, and
Hmm.
it replenishes glycogen right away. So during weight training, it's anaerobic activity. So you're burning sugar during weight training activity. So I'm already at a state of low blood sugar. The meal I had, that shake, it's not a ton of carbohydrates. It's probably like 60 grams of carbohydrates, and I get an additional 25 in my intra-workout shake, in my intra-workout drink.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much being burnt during my workout. And then I do my 30 minutes of cardio. So when I start doing cardio, my blood sugar is already low. I'm tapping into stored body fat right away.
Nice.
So I'm working out efficiently and effectively, right?
Hmm.
Um, I get home, I have that post-workout shake to replenish everything. And about 3 hours later, I have my first solid food meal, and that's usually around lunchtime. And I'll have 5 or 6 ounces of either chicken or steak, with either a sweet potato or brown rice and some vegetables. Then I'll have a meal about 3 hours later, which again, that's my last carbohydrate meal of the day. And I'll have either, a potato with, some eggs, or I'll have another chicken meal with a sweet potato or brown rice. And then dinner. And dinner is just protein, a salad, vegetables, 6 ounces of protein. And if I didn't have steak earlier, I'll have steak at night. If I had steak earlier, I'll have chicken at night or a fish or something like that. Fish isn't that often, but it's every now and again. Um, and then I have a shake again before I go to bed. I have another 2 scoops, and I've been using those Greek yogurts, which
Yeah.
I'm not a big dairy guy,
Yeah.
but I'm not trying to get contest ready, but we get those Greek yogurts that are like sugar free,
Uh-huh.
and they got 12 grams of protein, and it's just good for. They got some good probiotics in it, and good for gut health. And I'll have a little serving of that with my protein shake, and that's a night.
That's awesome. No, thank you for sharing that. That's just, it's
No, not
super
at
fun
all.
to just hear about what everybody does with regard to creating their healthy lifestyle. Because that's what it's about. It sounds like this is something that works for you. And like you said, it's about being consistent with your eating and
Yeah,
not just going, okay, I'm on a diet for this long, because eventually you're going to go off a diet. So you just create those consistent food changes that are foods that resonate with you and that taste good and that you enjoy. I feel like eating should be enjoyable. It shouldn't feel like you're on a diet. I think you probably feel similar.
yeah, and they're portioned right. My appetite's okay.
Hmm.
And sometimes I got to remember to eat. Like I'm pretty active depending on what's going on during the day. So there's times I go, shit, it's this time. Let me get a meal in. And there's some times where I'm too active and my blood sugar will drop. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, you start getting a little lightheaded and a little shaky. Like I got to eat quicker. Like, I'm moving around too much, so and that's how balanced my body is,
Yeah.
is because it's so regimented that when I'm thrown off, like I'll definitely feel it.
That's awesome. No, this has been so informational. So I guess one of my final questions is like, is there a way where the listeners that are listening to this, can they get a code from you maybe where they get a
Yeah,
little
we have a
discount?
Jodel 10 code set up,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So it's your name and the 10 next to it. They get a 10% discount.
Awesome.
Anything they want. It applies to any products they want. But of course, the T2s are on there. The Dream Chaser, the Amped Up's on there. Creatine's on there. The pre everything's on there. And it's I-PrevailSups.com,
Mhm.
I-PrevailSups.com. But yeah, anything they need. And I know you're a big advocate, and you push people to it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll put all that in the show notes so they'll see that there. Lastly, I like to ask a question about you in general, just about your life. And I have a favorite quote by Audrey Hepburn that says, "I believe that every day should have at least one exquisite moment." So would you like to share with us what your exquisite moment is today?
Okay.
It could be
Nice.
coming up or it could have already happened. So whatever you want to say with that.
So that's tough. I'll tell you, when the kids are younger, when the kids were younger, the exquisite moments were, they were around more. I have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. So the exquisite moments, and it was high maintenance because it's and not that it's not high maintenance now, but I think the exquisite moments from years ago were just, time alone with my wife, like whatever, the end of the night when the kids are down and we have some time to unwind and relax. That was more of it. Now it's turned into where, you know, and we have athletes for daughters, so they're on the go and it's travel and we're on the road constantly and both of them are in different clubs and in different directions so I think the exquisite moments now are whenever we could get some time together with everybody and just be, it doesn't have to be anything big, just a moment here or there, but for me it's family, and making sure that, I run a business and even when I started this business, I never wanted to compromise. Like I know guys and we see it, it's huge on social media. It's, run, run, run and work, work, work. And not that I don't do that, but there's so many people that put everything into their business that other things get neglected, you know? And I didn't come from, a supportive family, right? And my wife and I knew that when we started a family, we wanted to do it different, so, if I have to miss a trip, because my daughter's got a soccer tournament or the trip's going to wait, if I'm going to lose money, then I'll make it next week, like I'm going to be there, we're going to be there for their events and to support them and to give them the best possible, future that they deserve.
I love that. Sounds like your priorities are very smart when you put family first. So thank
I,
you for
I, I
sharing.
hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, the money will always be there later. When you get that time with your kids, that's so important. Nobody ever
It's,
got to the end of their life and said, "Oh, I wish I would have made more money." They
well,
always
what it
said,
is, and the money's fine. It's not even a matter of that.
"Yeah,
But I know guys that, oh, I got to go do that. Dude, you don't need to do this.
no,
But sometimes they let their work dictate. And when it's all done, are you going to be remembered for your work or you want your kids to remember you for being a good father?
that's right." Yeah,
I don't, we could make this much money. It's good. We don't need to make this much money and
right.
neglect what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So I'll have all the
Yeah.
information in the show notes for people to check out your products and to look you up because even there's a page about you on your website, which is really a fun page to read. So
Okay.
thank you for being on today, and we'll have to do this
Anytime.
again. Anytime
Yeah.
you come out with another product, reach out because I'm going to help you get it out there. It's a great
Oh,
one.
thank you. Thank you, Janelle. And I enjoyed being here. Thank you for having me.
All right, sounds good. Wouldn't it be nice if dialing in your health concerns were easy? Yeah, with so many schools of thought out there and so many diets, so many biohacks, so many tips and tricks, and really diet confusion, it's hard to know what's right for you as the individual. And that's where I would love to help you with a bio individual pro metabolic consultation. Yeah, I like to keep it simple. I like to keep it easy. I like to keep it affordable with so much in the world that's not. And so with a simple consultation over Zoom, I record your consult, I send it to you when you're finished so you can go back over it anytime you want. And during that consultation, I ask a slew of questions like a nutrition detective to get to the bottom of your bio-individual needs. All of this for $199. That's right, I told you I like to keep things affordable. I don't think that health should cost a fortune. I think that you know your body better than anybody, and I'm there to listen to you and honor where you are and help you along the way. No two persons' needs are alike, so no wonder your friend loses a ton of weight on keto, but you don't. Your body is completely different, and together you and I will work on a plan that fits your goals, nutrient needs, your lifestyle, thereby creating an optimized lifestyle protocol that you can adhere to, not a diet. I don't do diets. I love to look at HTMA results, hormone testing, and I love to dabble in iridology, so you send me a scan of your iris and I can look at that and tell you what's going on in your gut. Again, the initial consultation is an affordable flat rate of $199. That's right, I like to be affordable and transparent in a world where nothing ever is. And I don't think it should cost a fortune to have a health coach walk you through and navigate your health. So if that interests you, let's set up a free 15-minute discovery call and let's decide if we're a good fit together. Or if you're ready right now, you can email me at getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com and we can get you right on schedule. So for either case, whether you want your discovery call or you want to get right on schedule, that's getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. What would it feel like to have virtually every supplement known to man at your fingertips? And what if you only had to drink water to get it in? I firmly believe in something called frequency. It's what you feel when you touch a rock that's warmed by the sun. That warmth is frequency. It's how your text message gets to your friend's phone thousands of miles away. It travels on frequency. It's lightning. When the lightning hits the earth, it adds electrons to the earth, and that's how we ground. It's wind, it's brain waves, it's microwaves. Everything has frequency. And now you can write frequencies into your water since water holds frequencies. So imagine if each supplement has its own frequency and you write that into water, you can literally have any supplement, any peptide, any bioidentical hormone in your water. Listen to a podcast I did with a guy named Anton Fedorenko, a leading expert on frequency, and then visit my link in the show notes to Infopathy, or Infoceuticals, which is a way to infuse your water with the frequency of any substance or supplement that you want. Like I said, even peptides, without ever spending a penny on them. Check out the show notes for a link to Infopathy and a special discount code just for my listeners.